the Wartime MMA podcast, UFC Seattle edition, Adesanya versus Pyfer. Got a lot of fights to get through here today, and yeah, we're just gonna jump right into it with the early prelim opener of Alexia Thainara versus Bruna Brazil. Honestly, the prelims we're gonna get to in a minute. They're pretty strong. Usually we start off with some like this, some women's MMA, but honestly, I think Alexia Thainara is a pretty good prospect for strawweight. Bruna Brazil, we kind of thought that at one point, but her times kind of came and went. Fighting nerds, they ain't Captain Save-A-Ho. Bruna Brazil's probably going to continue to be more or less a mid-level strawweight. Like her striking's good enough to get wins over complete bums. I don't think she'll get cut. I think they like having the fighting nerds. She's only on a one-fight win streak or a loss streak, so I doubt she'll lose. She's lost pretty decent opponents. I think Thainara is good. I think we've seen Brazil has trouble with the wrestling, and Thainara's got great grappling. She'll go to the grappling more than anything else. So I'm gonna go Thainara. I could see submission. I could also see kind of a lay and pray. Honestly, I'm gonna go submission. I think Thainara is pretty good on the ground, and I think if she's given more time, she'll be able to sub Brazil. She subbed Molly. That's not really saying much. She went to a decision with Loma. I feel like Loma's, solid. She's got good grappling herself. I think Bruna's somewhere in the middle of that. So what I'm going to say is not a first round submission like Molly, not a decision like Loma. I'm going to say like second round submission, Thainara. I think it'll be like a round of just stalling and laying prey. Bruna Brazil tries to get up, spends her cardio, and a submission comes in the second. I'm going to say second round arm triangle for Alexia Thainara.
Yeah, I agree with Alex in most parts. I do got Thainara as well. Bruna Brazil is you know, she's Bruna Brazil. I mean, we picked her last card and she looked fucking awful in that. Like no IQ at all. Like she's supposed to be a fighting nerd and we all thought like fighting nerds are supposed to be smart people, and then you got people like Gene Silva, and then now Bruna Brazil coming in like full on retards. Like you got it was horrible, bro. She was like, it was 1-1 and she fumbled the decision victory for that. And, after I saw that, I think Bruna Brazil's probably going to be my ultimate fate, especially against, let's just go with the Alexa Thainara type of people, if you know what I'm saying. Ball knowers know what I'm talking about. The Thainaras of the society. So, I think I've yapped far too long about this fight. I'm going with Thainara. I'm going to go with decision. You know me. It's women's MMA signature right there with the 29-28 decision.
First fight of the night, rematch. This is at 115. Yeah, I think Alex and Mike said everything that needed to be said. I'm gonna make it a clean sweep. I'm also gonna go with Alexia Thainara to win the rematch here against Bruna Brazil. We all unanimously picked Bruna Brazil her last time out. I believe it was against Ketlin Souza. I was not very. I think all of us were not very impressed with that performance. Left a lot to be desired. I thought she may have won the first round, but despite that, it didn't matter. The last two rounds, she got outworked, and that's just how it goes. As for this fight, the first time they fought, Bruna Brazil got a guillotine against Thainara when she was like 2-0. Now she's 13-1. She's definitely made improvements since then. But I do think she has a lot of finishes, like 8 submissions. She's 13-1 with 8 sub wins. Never had a ground and pound TKO or TKO in general. I'm gonna go with Mike on this one. I'm gonna go Thainara decision. I feel like Thainara's gonna want to get this one back. I don't mind Alex's pick with the submission because that's her most prolific route to victory. And Brazil has been sub before, has never been sub before, but she hasn't really fought a grappler like on this level, so to speak. But yeah, I'm gonna go decision, Thainara. I feel like she'll get takedowns, she'll get top time, she'll be more active on the feet, and she'll get the rematch. I'm gonna go Thainara decision.
First fight on the card, clean sweep. I do have a feeling that's about to end, though. Next fight, Ricky Simone versus Adrian Yanez. This is a great fight. We were talking about it before the podcast a little bit. This fight deserves to be on the main card and definitely higher up on the prelims if it doesn't make the main card. Yanez is a name. So is Ricky Simone. Ricky Simone's been ranked. I want to say Yanez has been as well at one point. I want to say he was like 15 or 14 at some point. We like Yanez on this podcast. Some of us more than others in Mike's case, but we all like him. We've all interacted with him in some regard on Instagram or this channel in one way or another. So it does hurt to pick against him, but that is what I'm going to do. Adrian Yanez has been inactive a lot. It feels like right when he came on the scene, he was like some young guy. And now he's 32. The years have kind of flowed by. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, it seems like. Dealt with inactivity, whether that was his choice or not his choice. It is true. He dealt with a lot of inactivity. And I see new things that are posed to Adrian Yanez, and he tends to not really know what to do in certain cases. Like for Jonathan Martinez, he's a good kicker, and Yanez really didn't know what to do when he got injured in his knee, and that led to another big spell of inactivity for about a year. Yanez fighting Font. Font was a boxer, and that was like kind of the fight that really took his hype. We're like, okay, this is a great fight for Yanez, somebody who's going to box with him. And Font was just slicker. I kind of saw that Adrian Yanez is too reliant on throwing too many hooks. Daniel Marcos fight, he's a tough motherfucker, Marcos, but honestly, not really that good. And I realized anytime Yanez went into the pocket with him, he also got hit. It was hard for Yanez to hit Marcos and also not get hit himself. And he'd get into these like kind of hook brawls. And yeah, Yanez does have more power probably than Daniel Marcos, but who has power as well is Ricky Simone. I don't think Ricky Simone is the level of striker that Yanez is, but at the same time, I really don't know. Yanez is a big hook guy, like I said. Like I don't see him fight behind a jab very effectively. I don't see him, pivot, counter right hand, and he slips really that much. He kind of goes in there, high guard, and hopes for the best a lot of the cases. He swings hooks to the body, to the head. I really like his body work, and that's what really like got him on my radar and a lot of other people's radars. Like, oh, like he works the body like he's a really good boxer. He looks like Masvidal, but he doesn't really have the other things to his game the same way Masvidal does. He doesn't have the kicks. He doesn't have really too many boxing combos outside of hook, 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 or jab, hook, 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 or jab straight, hook, hook, hook. I like Yanez, but training with Joshua Van is going to help. And that's the thing that makes me be like, okay, if this goes wrong, this is going to be, I'm going to feel bad for picking against him. But, you know, there's training with Joshua Van, and then there's being Joshua Van. We've seen that with a lot of siblings. There's Valentina Shevchenko, and then there's Antonina Shevchenko. Just so you train with somebody doesn't mean you're that great. Rodolfo Bellato trains with Alex Pereira, So does Smellington Turdman. So I'm gonna have to go Ricky Simone here. He does post something to Yanez that he hasn't seen for a while or ever really, which is a good wrestler. I can't for the life of me name a good grappler that shot on Yanez. I think Daniel Marcos might have. I think Tony Kelly might have tried to while he was getting his ass beat. But really, these guys are that are trying are bums outside of Daniel Marcos. But he's much more of a kickboxer. Ricky Simone's a big guy. If the bantamweight division like abolished and these guys had to move to a different weight class, I think Ricky would go up to featherweight, whereas I think Yanez would go down to flyweight. Uh, I think Ricky's a bigger guy. He's got power. Yanez getting hit when he hits other people scares me against a big guy like Ricky who has crack in his hands, crack in his hands, power in his hands. But yeah, I'm gonna have to go Ricky Simone here. I think he already outgrappled a teammate of Yanez's with Cameron Smotherman. Cameron Smotherman isn't as good as Yanez, but Yanez has had historically good takedown defense, but against who? Uh, you know, he's had some calf kicks at some point, but like even on the feet, I'm seeing him getting pieced up by Randy Costa before Randy Costa gasses and Yanez puts the pedal to the metal. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with Ricky Simone here. Yanez, I hope the best for you, G. But you broke my heart too many times for me to pick you here, so I'm gonna go Ricky Simone by decision. Just holding him down for 3 rounds.
And here we go. My boy, Adrian Yanez. My guy. Um I think he will win, not because of the whole interactions with me and him, not because of I did interviews with him, not because I play Apex with him. I just genuinely think that he's gonna improve in this fight, I think. And from what I've heard, from what like information he has given me, and it's by the way, it's about time they gave him a fucking fight. He said that he's been trying to get a fight for like almost a year now. He tried to get a fight after that one fight fell through. It was against that Mexican dude. that fought, and it fell through due to visa issues or something. I don't remember. I think he couldn't make weight or it was visa issues. But they weren't giving him a fight since. But ever since that happened, he's been shifting gyms. He was training at the gym where Joshua Van trains and stuff. And I like that for him. And it sounds like he sounds like he's ready to go in, and sounds hungry and stuff. The thing with him, I get where Alex is coming from. We haven't really seen him face a tough grappler like Ricky. Ricky does grapple good and grapple a lot, but something's telling me that he is coming in prepared for that, and I think he will bring in some of that vintage Giannis performances where he's landing to the body, hitting some signature stuff from there. Uh, I think he will be counter heavy too, and I think this is where my prediction is going to go. I know it was a long time ago, but Ricky Simone getting knocked out by a 40-year-old Uriah Faber off the couch is insane to me. And yeah, Yanez hasn't really fought in a good grappler like that, but like some of the people that Ricky has beaten through his win streak that he's on right now. Yanez's boxing is far superior to all of them. Like Javid Bastrat, I would pick Yanez in a heartbeat to knock him out too. I would pick like certain other people. I would pick Yanez to beat some of these guys too. Um, Long story short, I got Yanez winning second round TKO. I think the body shots will come back in here. I think he will land to the body. I think he will be ready for the takedowns, and I think we will get a more improved version of his game here. I'm hoping this shit don't backfire on me though. But I got Adrian Yanez second round TKO body shots.
Good fight in the bantamweight division here between Ricky Simone and Adrian Yanez. Ricky Simone being the hometown fighter here. This fight being in Seattle, I think he's from like Portland, so like maybe not hometown, but pretty much close as possible as you can get. It's a good fight. It's your classic striker grappler matchup. Ricky Simone can strike though for a grappler. For a wrestling base, he does have a good overhand, as we saw in the Basharat fight. And he does have a gas tank where he can compete on the feet for the duration of a 15-minute bout. You could trust it. He is a pretty good UFC veteran, even as a win over over the proclaimed bantamweight goat Marab. So that is something to take into account. He is a legitimate fighter. He's well rounded, conditioned, doesn't really get finished for the most part. Like you can trust him to at least get to the 15 minutes, like finish the race, whether he's winning or losing. You can trust him to like finish the fight. Um, Yanez, on the other hand, he about like the same age. They have relatively like similar win loss ratio, but Ricky Simone has like a couple more fights than him at a UFC level as well. Logic, I do think is Ricky Simone. I think that is the right pick to make, but the more I think about this fight, I feel like Yanez is the better boxer. I think he is the better striker. And I do understand that his style is perceived as one dimensional because he doesn't really throw kicks, he doesn't really offensively wrestle, and he kind of just has that one base in his form of fighting. But I think the gap in the boxing is going to be evident. I think statistically, like he does have good takedown defense. It isn't really proven at a high level. Like who is he really knocking out? Who is he really defending takedowns from? I completely understand the logic of picking Ricky Simone. He'll definitely be motivated to win the fight in his like region, like where he's near and from. But I'm gonna go Adrian Yanez here. I think he's gonna showcase good takedown defense. He's gonna showcase the improvements that he's made in those 2 years away from the cage. The last time he fought was the Salvador fight. That was like 2024. I think that time off is gonna do him well. I like hearing that he's training with Van. I think we're gonna see improvements in his range management, his selection with his shots. He's not gonna be so susceptible to getting hit. And I feel like Ricky Simone's going to be walking to a lot of shots as he's going to be shooting those takedowns. This venue being where it's at, I could also see Ricky Simone being given more leniency as far as cage riding if like takedowns aren't successful and he could just kind of use the fence to get control time. I could definitely see that being a part of the fight. But I'm going to go with a Yanez decision where his strikes are valued higher than the takedown attempts, the control time of Ricky Simone, and the total strikes. I think the significant strikes are going to be Yanez. I think the damage is going to be Yanez. I think we're going to see improvements being made. And I think it's going to be a very high level fight. I could even see it being a split, but I'm going to go Yanez by decision where the damage and his shots are valued higher than the wrestling exchanges and control time of Ricky Simone and his total strikes.
All right, moving on to another good prelim here. Navajo Sterling versus Bruno Lopez. The thing is with Navajo Sterling is everybody always picks him to win by KO, and he always goes to decision. Now, at some point, I feel like that has to change. I feel like that's kind of like the key moment in a young fighter's game. It's like when they finally got a finish. Like I remember watching Ian Gary right when he debuted in the UFC. He KO'd the bum he fought in the debut, but he looked mid in that fight. But every fight after that was a decision up until the D-Rod fight where he got a head kick. I'm like, all right, now he's, ready, and now he's a contender. I feel like, we're still waiting for that moment with Navajo for him to, like, really sauce and TKO somebody, and then you're like, okay, this is a better version of Navajo than the one that's going to decision. Is that the point we're at now? I'm not sure. I'd like to believe it's going to happen soon, and I do think it'll happen. It's just a matter of if it happens now. Regardless, I'm thinking Navajo wins. It's just a matter of if I pick decision or KO. Bruno Lopez's all of his losses are KOs, so you know what? I'm feeling like Bruno Silva probably can't take Navajo's punches if he gets him clean. But I thought the same shit about Rodolfo Bellato, and he made a decision. I think I'm going to trust Navajo Sterling to just continue winning by decision until he proves me that he's not going to, and he's going to win by KO. I'm going to pick decision. We're waiting for that Navajo Sterling KO, but I think Bruno Silva is relatively okay. I do think he's probably the best guy who's fought up till this point. I'm going to go Navajo, chopping him down on the outside, teeps, low kicks, jabs, all that stuff. Navajo decision.
Yeah, I got Navajo Sterling as well. I'm not gonna pick knockout. I do like Navajo though. Out of all the CKB guys that out there, he is one of my favorite ones out there. He's got some good technical side out of him, but I do agree with Alex. If whenever he starts turning on the knockout abilities, I'll start picking him. But for now, I think he's just gonna. I think he's just gonna have his similar masterclass where he just starts out striking with the dude and stuff, and into a decision. I think it's gonna be a point fight decision between Navajo. I'll go 30-27. I think he'll just sauce, bro. But he could knock him out though. But this one he has to show me.
Yeah, it's going to be a clean sweep. I'm going to go Navajo Sterling as well, but I do see the trickiness as to how the method of picking him. He's 50-50 in terms of his wins being by knockout or decision, 4 by knockout, 4 by decision, and his 8 pro wins. I think the gap in technicality is evident. I think it's going to show itself in this fight with Bruno Lopez, whose 2 knockout losses come to Brenson Hibero and Dustin Jacoby. The Jacoby one I'm not mad at. He's a good kickboxer, but Hibero's not bad. He's dangerous, but I do think Navajo Sterling is a level above technical wise, kickboxing and just striking overall to a Brenson Hibero. It's comparable to a Dustin Jacoby, I would reckon. It's just a matter of like, what is the mentality of Bruno Lopez going to be in this fight? Coming off of a knockout loss, is he going to be timid? Is he going to be? Is he going to try to settle into the fight, try to point fight, try to extend the fight? If he tries to like make a statement and go forward, I could see him being, countered and hurt badly. But I could also see him being timid and wanting to go the distance and trying to extend the fight and make a case that he could outscore Navajo Sterling. Either way, I'm going Navajo. It's just a matter of do you pick him by knockout or points. It's set up for him to get a knockout, but I feel like he's the type of fighter that he's not going to force it. Like if it doesn't present itself, he's not going for it. Like a Carlos Ulberg, if I so to speak. Like he wants things perfectly in front of him. At least that's what my take is from him, seeing what I've seen in his career up to this point. So I'm gonna go Navajo Sterling by decision. I just think Bruno Lopez coming off a knockout loss to Jacoby, like he'll be more like timid. I don't expect him to like run recklessly into counter shots from Sterling. So I'm going Navajo Sterling and a decision win over Bruno Lopez.
Moving on to our next fight of the card. In a fight I've kind of been debating on who I'd pick. Casey O'Neill versus Gabriela Fernandez. Now, there is a world where I feel like Casey O'Neill is a better grappler, and she out-grapples her. Gabrielle Fernandez has lost two grapplers, her two fights in the UFC with Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Jasudavicius. Both are wrestlers, but more importantly, they're pretty tall and they're strong. Casey O'Neill is an inch shorter on paper than Jazz Davicius, so that is something that helps her. Something I always like feel like when I look at Casey O'Neill is like she just looks frail. Like she doesn't look like she has any muscle. Like she's just skinny with no muscle, and against a girl who's kind of like a man, that's tough. Because I feel like on the feet, if you're making it like a split decision with fucking Roxanne Modafferi, and look, Luana Santos, I felt bad, watching that fight. I wanted Luana to win. But I feel like, she was able to get that fight with Luana because Luana, like, she fights like a pretty woman, right? She likes to, fight at range and then go to the jujitsu. Gabriela Fernandez, man, like, she fights like, like, I don't know if I could say what I want to say on this podcast without getting canceled, but she fights like, more of a manly man sort of guy. She's going to try to get a knockout. She's going to throw power punches. Whereas I feel like Casey O'Neill's really can't do stuff. Can't really do damage on the feet. She does have output, but I feel like on the feet, it's going to be a big difference. The power will be a big difference in favor of Gabriela Fernandez. On the ground, I think, is where Casey has to win. And I think, Gabriela Fernandez is big. She's strong. She's Brazilian. She's got a grappling base of her own. I'm going to go Gabriela Fernandez by decision. Winning rounds on the feet, but being able to mitigate Casey O'Neill a little bit. I'm going to say 29-28. Casey O'Neill gets to her positions in a round.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Alex. I got Gabriela Fernandez. I'm not just going with her mainly because I think Casey O'Neill is complete and utter dog shit, but it's also because of the activity. Her last fight was in 2024, and we're in big 2026, and she has yet to get a fight. And honestly, I haven't even heard anything from relevant from Casey O'Neill, to be honest with you. And maybe that might be good, but she's coming back, and she's coming back against, a stud. You know what I mean? Like that's like she could out grapple Gabriella, I do think, but like I think Gabriella has been on a tear here ever since she took Kong Wang's O, and that was pretty fucking impressive. I will say that. Uh, I don't know what method I'm gonna pick because she got cooked by Ariane Lipski. Like that, and I picked Lipski in that too. Like I was like, man, like Lipski looked good, but like she looked too good. Like I thought like Ariane Lipski would win, but I didn't think it was like a major like pick. Like I thought like she should beat Casey O'Neill, but like she fucking cooked her. She showed like levels. Like I thought damn near Ariane Lipski was damn near gonna be like a woman's contender, but she just ended up sucking later on after winning. So that I don't even know if that loss is aging well either. I know Tony's definitely gonna go with his girl King Casey bitch, but I got Casey O'Neill getting dogged on. I'll go women's MMA signature. I want to pick finish, I really do, but I don't think it's there yet. I don't think it's in the cards per se, but I didn't think that Lipski would finish her, but we'll see. We'll see. And also Modafferi swelling up your eye and shit, and having a dog fight with her on her retirement fight. That is horrible. All right, I had no, I'm done. Tony, you can take it from here.
Good fight here in women's flyweight division. Got Casey O'Neill going up against Gabriela Fernandez. Fernandez on a 3-fight win streak right now. She beat Kong Wang. That was a really big upset. really big upset. Got the submission there. Beat Carly Judice. That was a really good win. She's a up and coming prospect at flyweight in her own right, and beat uh, Julia Storyalenko, who's like, pretty much kind of like a BJJ merchant, really an armbar merchant. That's kind of all she is. Lost to Teresa Bleda and Jasmine Judovicius, kind of like wrestling based styles, going up against Casey O'Neill, who has looked, what's the word? Kind of suspect at times, like with the Roxanne Modafferi fight, as Alex and Mike have reminded y'all multiple times. But Roxanne Modafferi, if I'm not mistaken, like didn't she beat Macy Barber, who is like fighting higher on this card? Like she's like pretty high level in her own right in the same weight class. So it's not easy to beat fucking Roxanne Modafferi all of a sudden. That's besides the point. Going into this matchup, Casey O'Neill coming off that win against Luana Santos. I think I was the only person on this podcast that picked her in that fight. Um, I like the improvements she made at Extreme Couture. She's one of the few guys like Nixick hasn't he's going the right way with her, man. Like I think Casey O'Neill, like I've always been high on her. I think she's a good representation of Scottish MMA. I think she's well rounded. She could do a little bit of everything. I really like what I saw in the striking improvements against Luana Santos, who I will admit was kind of fighting in the wrong weight class. I think Luana is definitely more of a bantamweight than a flyweight. So maybe that wasn't like the right weight class for her, but still, I reckon that's a great win. Fernandez, her best win in the Carly Judice and the Kong Wayne wins are really good. Casey O'Neill beating Luana Santos, I think, is a good win. She does have the losses against Maya and Lipsky, which aren't great. I'm gonna go Casey O'Neill here. I'm gonna go a decision. I feel like she's the more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I do understand that she's been finished before. I think in the amateur, she might have been TKO'd, and she's been subbed in the pros, and she's lost a decision in the pros. Gabriela Fernandez is durable. All of her pro losses are by decision. But I think Casey O'Neill is going to show improvements in the striking. Her wrestling is going to look better. Her grappling overall. I really like Casey. I think she's a legit prospect at flyweight. I've always been high on her, and I'm going to pick her to win this one. So I'm going to go Casey O'Neill by decision, where she just showcases she's just the better fighter everywhere. And this will be a legit win for her in the UFC. This will really showcase coming off back-to-back wins over Santos, and what I think will be Fernandez is going to be a really good look for her. She'll move up in the rankings. I'm gonna go Casey O'Neill by decision.
Moving on, the next fight. Marcin Tybura versus Tyrell Fortune. Actually, the next three fights all have a former Bellator fighter in them. But Tyrell Fortune is the first one. And him versus Tybura is interesting. The nice thing that makes this really interesting is, yes, he's Bellator, Bellator slop. But Tybura's lost to Bellator slot before. Daliha came in and KO'd him. And honestly, I feel like Tyrell Fortune has a good style to beat Tybura. He's a grappler by trade. He's a wrestler with power in his hands. I honestly think Tyrell Fortune's going to win this fight by KO. I think Marcin Tybura and him will try to be grappling each other. I think they'll both shoot on each other. Tyrell Fortune did get subbed with the heel hook, which, you don't like to see. I'm not sure if Marcin Tybura can do a heel hook. I'm gonna be honest. If Walter Walker fought him, but the guy he lost to, Bill Steiny, seems like he's not really fat at heavyweight, so I'll give him that. Whereas Tybura is fat, so I honestly think Tyrell Fortune will land the shot on the feet. I think the wrestling will kind of mitigate Tybura. The thing I do like, which is I usually don't like American wrestlers, but they usually have good takedown defense. And he's got big power. He's got some boxing ability. I'm going to trust him to clip him. I'm going to say second round after kind of a boring snooze fest of a first round where they're kind of missing shots on each other and don't want to engage. Start to engage a little bit more on the feet in the second round after a lot of failed takedown attempts and sloppy heavyweight boxing. And Tyrell Fortune will catch him with an overhand or a hook or something and put away Tybura in the second round. I'm going to go Tyrell Fortune with a successful KO in his debut against Marcin Tybura, making him ranked.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with Alex. I got Tyrell Fortune. I just can never see myself picking Martian Tybura to win a fight at all, bro. I don't know why. I think you have to be a complete and utter retard or something to pick Marcin Tybura. I don't know. Like I know he be like getting like he has like some sneaky like he has some sneaky stuff in his game, but like I don't know. I could shoot myself in the foot here because it is Bellator slop after all, and like I've learned my lesson to never pick Bellator people, but like it's heavyweight and you're having Blob going against like Blob, but he's not as obese. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't have the turkey tits level of obesity. Like he's in decent, not like great shape, but like but like a decent heavyweight complex shape. So I'll pick him here. And I think this will be a fucking stinker. I think this will be boring. I will go with a decision victory for the Bellator boy. He will get his USCW. Let's see it. Let's go for it. Go for that.
Interesting one here in the heavyweight division. UFC debut for a former Bellator fighter in Tyrell Fortune going up against Marcin Tybura. This guy, he is a rookie, but he's coming in, like pretty seasoned in his career. 17-3, 20 pro fights, having fought in Bellator. He's fought decent competition. He's got like I want to say 10 knockouts at least in his career. Let's see, yeah, at least 10. He seems to be the more athletic guy, as Alex alluded to, having like a wrestling base. He could shoot like a pretty decent single leg and a double leg. He's got conventional takedowns. He just seems to be a better athlete compared to Marcin Tybura. Not saying much, but that is the standard of the heavyweight division, as we all know. I just happen to feel like for Marcin Tybura, he's the type of fighter that kind of thrives with experience. He's a guy that like takes advantage of these younger heavyweights that aren't like established at a UFC level and kind of capitalizes on their mistakes. But one fight in particular that like I was just like dumbfounded as to how he won. I thought was a complete and blatant robbery. Was the Mick Parkin fight in every statistical category? Mick Parkin like outscored Marcin Tybura, and it was in the UK and they still gave it to Marcin Tybura. I thought that was pretty ludicrous, honestly. But aside from that, like for the most part, like I said, like he kind of just exploits their lack of experience. He has decent cardio for a heavyweight. He's just kind of like mid to decent everywhere. Grappling, striking isn't like he's not gonna knock you out, but he could like throw a body kick, and that heavyweight, that's something. But Tyrell Fortune, I think he's the better athlete. I don't think he wants to have a boring performance in his UFC debut. I agree with Alex. I think he's gonna be looking for the knockout. I think he's gonna be sprawling and brawling. Kind of just like copy and paste what Daliha did. Just like pressure the shit out of Tybura, make him make a mistake, and then boom, capitalize. And I trusted him where if he hurts him, he'll follow up and give vicious ground and pound. So I'm going to go with Alex. I'm going to go first round TKO for Tyrell Fortune and an emphatic statement in his UFC debut. He's just a better athlete. I think he's quicker. 5 years younger, I want to say. Tybura is like near 40, if not 40. Double check. Years old. I think the age is going to look visible, which is crazy because they're only 5 years apart. But I just think athletically they're going to look different. I'm going to go Tyrell Fortune first round TKO.
Clean sweep. Moving on to our next fight and our next Bellator fighter. Chase Hooper versus Lance Gibson Jr. Lance Gibson Jr. 0-1 since coming in to fight Bobby Green on short notice, and they almost robbed it for him. I don't think there's any chance of that happening here, though. Chase Hooper, I feel like, has been a project that they've been working on for a while. I feel like he's almost like damn near the original Raul Rosas. He came in at a super young age as a jiu-jitsu guy. He just didn't get the coddling that Raul's getting. You know, he had to fight some tough guys like Steve Garcia when he was pretty young. Now he's a lightweight. We've seen sometimes when Chase Hooper loses, the next fight after he has like nobody really picking him, that's when he like makes a sudden improvement. And it's like, now he's got striking. So really the big holes in Chase Hooper's game that I see is takedowns in wrestling and striking defense. Honestly, his striking's pretty good for like somebody who wants to be a grappler, but his defense is not. He's got to get his striking defense better. In general, getting striking better couldn't hurt either, but he needs to get the takedowns. That is something he needs urgently, is to be able to get those double legs and single legs and all that type of stuff. Like we saw how big of a game changer that was for Charles Oliveira when he really started to work on his wrestling and get his takedowns going. He was able to maul people. I think Chase Hooper needs to follow that same thing. Lance Gibson Jr. He's a wrestler by trade. I'm pretty sure he's got an ability to strike as well. But if you're gonna grapple with Chase Hooper, you got to be careful about it. Lance Gibson Jr. just up and starts Chase Hooper like Alex Hernandez? I don't think so. Uh, 9-2 versus 16-4. Despite Chase Hooper being younger, he's more experienced. Give me Chase Hooper. He's pretty much grown up in the UFC. I've counted him out sometimes, and he always comes back improved. Despite him, losing in bad fashion sometimes, he usually goes back to the chalkboard and gets better. And I'm going to trust him to do that. This is a big step down compared to Alexander Hernandez, in my opinion. I think Lance Gibson Jr. could even be stupid and try to wrestle, but I think the feet won't be crazy. I think Chase Hooper's kicks and jabs will be decent enough to keep him at bay in the first round until the grappling eventually gets going. I'm gonna go Chase Hooper by sub at some point. Let's say second round sub Chase Hooper. After they get to the ground, Chase Hooper gets to show that there's born and bred in the UFC, and then there's born and bred in Bellator, and we're gonna see the difference. I'm gonna say Chase Hooper, second round sub, triangle or armbar, something like that.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I'm gonna go with Chase Hooper as well. I really am. I really do like Chase. I like Chase Hooper more than most. He's shown his game. He's improved his striking phenomenally well. Before he got killed by Alexander Hernandez, he was looking pretty decent on the feet. It was just he was trying to get it to the ground quickly, and he was just getting too nervous, and that's what happens. You just get caught. But I think he doesn't really need to be nervous about this fight per se. Alexander Hernandez, like the man or not, even though he's a fucking gambler that throws fights, apparently. Um, he allegedly. Um, Despite all that, there's levels. Like Alexander Hernandez is a good fighter. He is a very good fighter. I don't like. There's no shame of losing to him compared to losing to a Lance Gibson. If he loses to Lance Gibson, I don't know. I don't know if I could pick him again, but I will go with Chase Hooper. I think he's just better, more improved, hungrier. Like I just don't see myself picking Lance Gibson. Lance Gibson was getting styled on by Bobby Green, and honestly, they tried to rob Bobby, and I didn't even think it was that close. They were scoring, even when he was winning, they had it at 29-28. I didn't even give Lance Gibson a single round. I thought Bobby won almost every single round, known to man, arguably. But, it's here nor there. I've done far too long of this yapping. I got second round club and sub by Chase Hooper. I think he's just going to put a whooping on Lance Gibson. And that'll be it.
Interesting one in the lightweight division in this one. Lance Gibson Jr. going up against Chase Hooper. I picked Lance Gibson Jr. in his last fight against Bobby Green, and they tried to rob Bobby Green in that fight. That was not a split decision. That was a Bobby Green like masterclass. Honestly, they just gave it to they just tried to like rob him. Honestly, I wasn't really impressed with what I saw. His output and his volume isn't great on the feet. His dad was like a martial artist, and he has like his own gym, and they obviously have like a lot developed into him and things like that. But that being said, despite being 5 years younger than Gibson, Chase Hooper has more pro fights, and he just has more UFC experience. He's been knocked out twice in his career, but it's against like Steve Garcia, Alexander Hernandez. I don't feel like Lance Gibson's got the power or delivery of those guys, especially early on in the fight. I feel like the gap on the ground should favor Chase Hooper, especially in like the BJJ aspect of the fight. Maybe wrestling you can give to Gibson, but I think his athleticism will dwindle in the fight, whereas Hooper kind of has a good like way of pacing himself in fights, even if they're like high pace. It's just a matter of like not getting clipped. I just think like Hooper, the gap on the ground is like the biggest aspect of the fight. Whether he's on bottom, he's on top, if they're in a 50-50 position in the clinch, I just think he'll have the edge over him, being taller, longer, and I think more dangerous as well in the grappling. I'm torn between a submission and decision, but I'm gonna go Chase Hooper by decision. I feel like his submission attempts, his grappling will be valued more heavily than the takedowns or control time of Lance Gibson. And I feel like even if Gibson's landing the bigger shots, like the output and the volume of Hooper would have been valued more than Gibson. I feel like Gibson's going to be looking for like one punch exchanges and like takedowns a lot. He's going to be looking for moments of the fight, whereas Hooper, whether he's on bottom, whether they're striking, I feel like he'll be consistently landing points throughout the duration of the fight, whether it's sub attempts, strikes at range, or scrambles. I know scrambles can't be scored, but just like he'll be doing like more activity. Gibson in that Bobby Green fight, like he was just kind of looking for like moments and exchanges. Like he wasn't like really fighting like the full minutes of the rounds. It just kind of looked like he was looking for his like exchanges and his bursts, and if he didn't get it, like that was it. I'm gonna go with Chase Hooper by decision. I think his activity overall in all aspects of MMA will be valued more heavily than Gibson's.
Moving on to our next Bellator fight of the card. Rafik Musayev, who's honestly more of a Ryzen guy, but he did fight in Bellator for the title or in the tournament as well. So against Ignacio Bahamondes. And Ignacio Bahamondes, if you know, you know. Ball knowers know. Love everything about this kid. You know, I like Bahamondes a lot. He's a great kickboxer. He's another guy that came in really young, and we've kind of seen him improve from like point fighter to somebody who kills people. That Manuel Torres win is looking really good right now. And honestly, the best thing that I think where I'm just super confident of Bahamondes going into this fight is that he's been training with Bilal for like it feels like damn near a decade at this point. His grappling has honestly gotten really good. He's got an ability to submit people. He's got a wrestling game of his own. He's got great takedown defense. And honestly, that's the way Tafik Musayev has to win. He has to get the takedowns. 36. He's 8 years older than Bahamondes. Bahamondes got a 6.5 inch reach advantage, and he's 6 inches taller. You know, everything points to Bahamondes here. He's a guy like at some point I'm like, okay, as you keep like growing up and getting bigger, you're damn near gonna have to move to 170. Like he is a big fucking lad. He is bigger than all these other string bean strikers at lightweight. He might even be bigger than Jalen Turner. But I think Bahamondes is great. I think he's gonna win by knockout. For some reason, when I look at like these bricky guys, like these I almost called him a chud, but that's not the word I'm looking for. But like he's, you know, fat and stout. I feel like that's body work all day. That's where you throw a teep up in the middle and he goes, ugh, and he fucking goes down. And I'm thinking body shot KO of some kind, whether it's a knee or a kick. I'm thinking knee or kick for Bahamondes to Tafik Musayev's body. Honestly, now that I'm thinking, the reason I'm thinking that is because Alexander Shabli, finished Tafik Musayev with a body kick. And I think Bahamondes is a better striker than Shabli. I think a teep up the middle using his length is going to get it, like a Volkov, Walt Harris level teep. I think I don't know if that'll finish the fight, but I think that will start the finish of the end. I think teeps to the body are going to be huge. I'm going to say Bahamondes first round. KO. GOAT. Bilal Muhammad going to be watching. The other GOAT.
There's don't say goats in front of Bilal Muhammad, bro. Anyways, yeah, I got Ignacio Bahamondes as well. I like Bahamondes, I really do as well. This is another person that I really like, and I think Alex alluded to it best. I mean, despite at this Tapology photo, it clearly looks like Tafik Musayev was on that juice in them Rising days. That man was definitely on some injections. But I think Bahamondes will spoil the party here. I don't know what method per se I will pick. I might go with a body shot, another body kick TKO as well. I could see that he looks a little soft in the midsection there, but we'll figure out what happens. I got Bahamondes as well.
Yeah, I think we're gonna make it a clean sweep. I'm gonna go with Ignacio Bahamondes as well. I will say though, from a striking aspect, Tafik Musayev isn't bad. His one TKO loss is to Alexander Chablis, who I do think is a good mixed martial artist in his own right. I do think he is a good striker and just a good fighter overall. Ignacio, he is a large lightweight, like 6'3". His range, his reach, his frame is very big for the weight class. His best bet is to stay here. I don't think you should move up to 170. I feel like at this point you might as well just kind of play into the weight bully thing. Training with Bilal Muhammad, I really like that. That's good for his conditioning. That's good for his just like ability to kind of not be so reliant on a finish. I feel like that's good for just duration of a fight. Mosaev's getting older. UFC caliber competitions, obviously more stout. I will say though, like losing to Mikta Bekorbalal, like it's a different style from Bahamondes. That's not going to be what Bahamondes is going to do. He's going to strike, and by default, that is the type of game that Messiah is going to want to play. I do think it'll be a little bit more competitive than most do. I think everybody's expecting like a Bahamondes first round. I could see that, but I do think this is going to be more competitive than people make it out to be. Historically, his losses are like McDessie, Fiziev, Ludovic Klein, those kind of like stout frame build guys. I feel like Messiah does have that frame. I think it will be competitive on the feet, but ultimately, Bahamondes, I do trust his conditioning more. I trust his durability more. I think the longer the fight goes, it would favor him. Obviously, there's like a body knockout with Messiah, so Bahamondes would be smart to attack that area, if any. I'm torn between a late TKO and a decision. That could be a potential fight of the night. I really do think this could be a high level war. Because Bahamondes, like, I feel like our perception of him is higher than kind of what he is, to be frank. I feel like he's very talented and his potential in the weight class is legit, but he's kind of never lived up to expectation. I picked him against Fiziev, and I kind of left that fight like he had a wrong approach in that fight. Like he tried to point fight Fiziev in Baku. I was expecting him to be like hell bent on pressuring him. This is your big moment. This is your chance to break through in the rankings. I expected him to kind of go for the kill, and I kind of left like dumbfounded. Not dumbfounded, but like kind of like my head. I scratched my head. Like I didn't like understand like where was the intensity, where was the willingness to kind of like die for it. Didn't really get that from him. So I could see the knockout, but I feel like this is going to be like this week's Jones Sola. I'm calling for an Ignacio Bahamondes high level war decision win. I think this is going to be a great scrap. I think Messiah's going to impress people on the feet early, but I think as the fight progresses, Bahamondes is going to land the bigger shots. He's going to go to the body more. Ultimately, I am going Bahamondes, but I do think this is going to be a competitive bout. He should get a bounce back knockout win, but I think it's going to be a good scrap. This frame of a fighter has just historically given him problems. Hopefully, he's made the improvements with his range management, but I'm gonna go Bahamondes in a war decision win, where he wins 2 and 3.
Moving on to our next fight of the card, Terrence McKinney versus Kyle Nelson. So I just want to say how badly they fumbled putting Musayev on the Azerbaijan card. He was supposed to fight a debuting Brazilian. Now he gets Bahamondes, and he's probably going to be out of the UFC. But yeah, Terrence McKinney, Kyle Nelson. This is an interesting fight because this is a fight where Terrence McKinney can knock out Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson is okay, but he's kind of chinny, and I feel like he takes a minute to get going. I feel like that's a good recipe for a McKinney KO. I think McKinney, he's knocked out better, to be honest. He's beaten better. Fresh Siam is better. At that time, Matt Frivola was better than current Kyle Nelson. Kyle Nelson, though, he's crafty. He does have an ability to strike. If McKinney doesn't finish him, he will finish McKinney. He's not terrible. Like, he's not somebody who's going to cruise McKinney to a decision after McKinney gasses out. If McKinney fumbles the finish, he will get finished in typical McKinney fashion. It's very possible. I picked Terrence McKinney to beat Chris Duncan. He's a lot tougher than fucking Kyle Nelson. I do think Kyle Nelson will be in trouble. You know what? You're getting KO'd by Billy Quarantillo, gang. Terrence McKinney. I'm gonna have to go Terrence McKinney. I picked him against Chris Duncan. I'm gonna have to pick him here. I've picked him to lose correctly against a lot of mid guys too, though. At the same time, guys like what's that fucking guy's name? Azerbaijani Sadikov. and he kind of just weathered the storm and got a submission. Kyle Nelson can do that, but I think the difference is the chin. I think Kyle Nelson, just look at him, he looks like a victim. He looks like some like Terrence McKinney. Like if he saw Kyle Nelson on the street, he'd pull out a gun and fucking shoot him because Kyle Nelson's a bitch. Like if we were in the Wild West, like Terrence McKinney would just and fucking rob him of his loot. Like Terrence McKinney would kill Kyle Nelson in any other world where there would not be civilization. That's genuinely the way I feel. Look at Kyle Nelson. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Kyle Nelson, like, if you saw somebody like Kyle that looked like Kyle Nelson in a movie, especially a scary movie, you're like, oh, he's dead. And sure enough, he's like first three people to die. I don't know why I feel so strongly about this, but like, I just feel like Kyle Nelson is a victim. Like, in any other situation, I'd pick him to probably lose against like Terrence McKinney's like a coughing baby after a minute, but that minute, man, like he's an atomic bomb. And I don't think Kyle Nelson can survive even a minute of an atomic bomb because he's a victim. Terrence McKinney, first round murder.
Yeah, I agree with Alex. I got Terrence McKinney as well. It's definitely gonna be a tough fight because when times get tough for Terrence, he'll melt, but I can never see myself picking a Canadian man, bro. Like I cannot, bro. Like there's something about him. There's something like about him that just screams like soft. Like there's nothing about like a Canadian man that makes me think that they can win this fight. And Kyle Nelson is one of those Canadian men that I cannot pick. And I know what people are gonna say. Oh, he lost. People are picking against Terrence McKinney. I've heard this from certain people on MMA YouTube. They're making it sound like Chris Duncan is a bum. Chris Duncan is not only got that Scottish Braveheart like style, bruh. He's not bad, bro. Kyle Nelson is trash. He is fucking garbage. He used to be Bellator Goyslav. That was how horrible he is. So, and Alex brought it up. You got slept by Billy Cornsillo, bro. Like you pretty much got KO'd by my neighbor, bro. That's just pretty much saying how it is with Billy Cornsillo. But honestly, I got Terrence. I don't know what method though. He could sub him too. Terrence McKinney's grappling is very good. I think I'm gonna go ground and pound TKO. I do think he will mix it up here. He will get the grappling going, and I think he will just start button mashing the ground and pound strikes on from back mount, and it will be good night, Irene. I cannot pick a Canadian. It's just like I can't pick a French person. Can't do it unless if you're Benoit.
Fight here in the lightweight division between Terrence McKinney and Kyle Nelson. T-Rex versus the Monster. Terrence McKinney again, like having like the so to speak the hometown advantage. I think he's from like Spokane, Washington, like that region. This being in Seattle, so similar to Ricky Simone, who's like I think from Portland. This is his geography. This is his advantage. This is his home court, so to speak. Um, you know, I think Alex and Mike said it best. Terrence McKinney in that first round, dude, he's one of like the best fighters ever, bro. Like legit, like he goes 100 miles an hour. He is a freight train coming at you, and you better move out the way. Like he's kill or be killed, straight up. I do think that he is very much like a 1 round fighter, similar to like a Marlon Moraes, where he's so prolifically dangerous in that first round that it like taxes him so much that if you somehow are able to survive the first round, you're able to kind of pounce on him because he's drained from the amount of adrenaline and how much just overall like energy he spent, whether it's grappling or striking. He can in those first 5 minutes, like he can do anything. Sub you, he sub Ferris Yam. That's a fight that we look back on like how did that happen? It's just that's what he does. Like the Mavrovola fight, he can do extraordinary athletic things in these instances in this short amount of time. And I can understand being at home and looking at Kyle Nelson being a Canadian male. I can understand why Alex and Mike would pick Terrence McKinney to get the first round knockout in his hometown, motivated. I completely get it. I don't get me wrong. I get it. But I pick Kyle Nelson from time to time in fights, and I'm looking at his losses, and I can't help but feel like these are not bad losses. These are pretty comparable. Now, I know the Billy Quarantillo KO loss is not great. I don't like that one. It was in the third round. This third round arm triangle to a Matt Sales, that one's not great. But the losses in particular that I want to look at the time, an undefeated Adrian, I cannot pronounce his last name, Hadrabaj, whatever the hell, he was 4-0 at the time. He's now 12-2. That was on the regional scene. I think that was a good loss. I think Diego Fajea in 2018 at 155. I think that's a good loss. I think Jai Herbert, um, contradictory to certain people like our guy Dime, like he thinks Jai Herbert's trash. I think he's a good fighter, so I don't think that's a bad loss. And Steve Garcia, who is going to fight on the White House, I don't think that's a bad loss. So I'm looking at those losses, and I think like Jai Herbert, Garcia, and Diego Fajea, and the guy on the regional scene, I reckon those guys are better than Terrence McKinney. I hate to be that guy. I do understand McKinney is him in those first 5 minutes, but I don't like picking people based on, oh yeah, it's got to go this way or it's over. I get it. He could definitely flatline Nelson, but in the first round, he's only been finished by Steve Garcia, who I do think is better than McKinney. I'm going to go with Kyle Nelson. I'm torn between a late finish or a decision. But I feel like in this region, like he's not gonna want to leave it to the judges, even if he does have a significant cardio advantage over McKinney, which I think he does. So I'll go with. I want to see what McKinney's been knocked out more or sub more in his career. He has been. One more. Okay. McKinney has been knocked out 5 times, and he's been sub 3 times. Nelson's got 6 knockouts, 4 subs. I'll go with a torn between a second or a third round submission. I'll go with a. I'll go late second round sub, Kyle Nelson. I feel like it's going to be a sweaty first round. He could even get dropped in that first round. If he gets dropped, he could definitely get finished. But I think it's going to be sweaty. I think he's going to. Kyle Nelson's best bet is survive that first round, bro. Do not try to go clashing with Terrence McKinney in that first like couple minutes. Let him exhaust his energy. Just circle, play on the back foot. You know you're in a hostile environment. You're probably not going to win the first round more often than not. Just survive. Extend the fight. Maybe get taken down. Survive a sub attempt or two. Survive some ground and pound. It very much lose the first round. I think it'll visibly be shown how Terrence McKinney is kind of drained in that second round, having done explosive movements and things in that first round. And I think Nelson's confidence is going to gradually progress, leading to him to be more successful on the feet. He'll pick his shots better. He'll go forward more. He'll even engage in grappling exchanges of his own. And McKinney will be too tired, too exhausted to continue. The pressure will mount up. He'll quit. He'll break. I'm going to go second round, late sub, Kyle Nelson.
Moving on to our next fight of the card. And that was the first fight of the main card. This is the second fight of the main card. Mansour Abdul Malik versus Yusri Belgaroui. Now, records are similar. Similar experience. Mansour Abdul Malik is 9-0-1 with one no contest, but that should have been a one. Cody Brundaged. So more or less 9-0 or 10-0. And Yusri Belgaroui is 9-3. Mansour Abdul Malik's record looks good. But it doesn't tell the full story. He's very green. He doesn't really excel anywhere. He isn't a super good striker. He isn't a super good wrestler. He isn't a super good submission threat. He's strong. He's powerful. He's athletic. He's raw talent, more or less. Whereas Yusri Belgaroui is kind of the opposite of that. He's already been molded into who he's going to be. He's a kickboxer, and he's just learning how to kickbox in MMA. I love that he's training with Glover and Pereira. I'm glad that he's close to those guys because I really feel like as a kickboxer going into MMA, that's probably the best camp you can go to for learning how to turn your kickboxing professional style into an MMA style with defending takedowns and in general. We saw Belgaroui had good footwork, good takedown defense against Azamat Bekoev. I think Bekoev's better than Mansour Abdul Malik. I think he is. I think Belgaroi's long. He's going to be able to keep Abdul Malik at the end of his punches. I feel like he's going to be elusive in the pocket when it needs to be there. He needs to watch out for the power, but I really think on the feet, it's night and day difference here. I think Yusri's a great striker. Even has a win over Alex Pereira, I want to say. Great fighter. Just finally learning how to become an MMA fighter. I liked his takedown defense, like I said. I think it's going to be good enough against Monster Abdul Malik. I think he needs a lot of time before he cultivates into a worthy prospect of getting somebody ranked or getting close to a ranked opponent. I think Yusri Belgarui is a tough opponent. Great fighter. I'm gonna say Belgarui decision or knockout. That's tough. I think I'm gonna say decision. I think Abdul Malik is gonna stay tough. I don't think Belgarui has crazy power, but I could see him landing like a head kick or a knee or something like that. I think he's gonna hurt Abdul Malik on some exchanges, but I think Abdul Malik will more or less survive out of sheer toughness and athletic ability, trying to shoot takedowns where he can. He doesn't get very many. I'm gonna say Yusri Belgarui, 30-26. I think they'll get a 10-8 on there. I think he's gonna get Abdul Malik gassed. Yeah, 30-26 Yusri.
Abdul Malik as well. I think he will continue being undefeated. I got him winning be an undefeated streak. I just think he's tougher and he's younger. He's more hungry. Like I think he's got more in the tank for himself here. And I don't know. I don't know. I'm torn by finish or he might or decision, but I'm gonna stick with the decision pick here. I think he's just too good and far levels above Yerzy. So yeah, that's my pick there. I got Mansour Abdul Malik by decision. I'll go 30-27.
Great fight in the middleweight division here in the Seattle card between Mansour Abdul Malik, undefeated, going up against Yusri Belgari. Really interesting style here. Clash of styles in this matchup. Yusri Belgari, former Glory kickboxer, and now training with Alex Pereira, another former Glory kickboxer. Had bouts with Israel Adesanya back in the day, and Alex Pereira, as well as many other well-versed kickboxers. You see it in his style in MMA. He's very technical, good striking, and he really made a statement in his UFC debut as an underdog. Got the finish over Azamat Bekoev, who I remember I picked going into that fight. I will admit, though, I was a little bit curious as to the approach that Azamat kind of had in that fight. Russian wrestler, at least that was the idea or perception I had of him. Kind of felt like he entertained the striking more than I would have liked him to, but we can't coach our picks. We can't like we're not in the cage, we're not in the corner telling them what to do. You got to pick fights based on what they do and what you think of what's going to occur and things of that variety. But from what we've seen from Yusri Belgari in his contender series stints, as well as his UFC debut at an MMA level, he's not bad. He's a rangy kickboxer. He manages his range well. He looks really good against Bekoev. Looks sharp. Just good accuracy. His takedown defense held up better than I expected. He looked really good in that debut. This is a legit step up for Mansour Abdul Malik. I am not mad at all if you want to say that Yusri Belgari is the best opponent that Mansour has faced up to this point. You are entitled to that opinion, and I reckon you're probably more right often than not. I completely understand a Yusri Belgari pick here. He is the more technical striker at a higher level in kickboxing, so to speak. Um, Having trained with Teixeira, having trained with Alex, he's gonna use the positives from his career and apply them to his style and use the negatives and be weary of it as far as the weaknesses of his style. But I do think Mansour Abdul Malik. I disagree with Alex's statement. I think he actually has the potential to be a better fighter than Azamat Bekoev. I do understand Bekoev has more experience, like significantly more time in the cage than Mansour, but I do see promise in Mansour Abdul Malik as well. He is an athletic specimen in his own right. He does have NCAA caliber wrestling in his back pocket. He's just a freak of an athlete. Um, all of Usuri's pro MMA losses are by decision. Mansour Abdul Malik, if I'm not mistaken, has never been to a decision in his pro career. So this is interesting if this fight goes extended. How does Mansour Abdul Malik look if the fight is past rounds 1 and 2? Legit questions that could be answered in this fight. But I'm going to go with Mike. I'm going to go with Mansour Abdul Malik by decision here. I think he's going to get his first pro decision win in his career in a hard fought battle against a very high level kickboxer. I think he's going to have exchanges on the feet that are going to compete with the high level kickboxer. I think it's going to be reminiscent of the Marco Tulio fight of his Contender Series bout. I think Abdul Malik, when he needs to, is going to get top time and takedowns. I think he's going to compete on the feet with the high level kickboxer. I think where Belgary may be outpointing him in minutes, I feel like the big exchanges, the big shots off the break, those ooh and ah moments are going to be Abdul Malik winging hooks and overhands at the guard of Belgary. Even if they're not landing hard, I think they're going to like just visually appeal to the crowd. So I could see it being a fight where you're going to look at the stat lines and you're going to see Belgary probably has more total strikes and you're going to think like, hey, he should have won. Abdul Malik didn't do like that crazy work like striking wise, but I think the takedowns, the ground and pound, his ability to compete on the feet as an athlete, I think he's going to show toughness. I think he's going to show discipline in this fight. It's going to be very high level. I'm going to go with the decision win for Mansour Abdul Malik in a fight where we're going to really see what he looks like if he can dig deep past an early finish, if things don't go according to plan. I'm going to go with an Abdul Malik decision win in Seattle. And still undefeated.
All right, moving on to our next fight of the card. Julian Erosa versus Larian Douglas, coming off the Contender Series. Larian Douglas is 13-5. He's lost, and he's lost by KO. Anytime a prospect comes in like that, I always pump the brakes. Pump the brakes. That being said, Julian Erosa is kind of a victim at this point. That being said, he can turn back a prospect still. So I wouldn't put any money on either guy here. But the guy he fought on Contender Series, Cam Teague, is pretty ass. So whatever. He has a knockout win over Javier Reyes, who we saw in the UFC earlier this year, fighting Douglas Silva de Andrade. He TKO'd him, so that is a good win. He's lost by TKO to Isaac Thompson, who's 9-3, 23-year-old. He's the guy that fought Joe Anderson Brito on short notice, if you guys remember that. Australian dude. It's a pretty unforgettable fight. Wouldn't be surprised. Lost to Chepe Mariscal. He got TKO'd by Saifullah Dazabarailov, some Dagestani or whatever he is. That being said, Harry Douglas, power in the hands, mostly a striker. He's got a grappling ability, it seems like, as well. Anytime a Brazilian comes in, you got to assume they have some level of jiu-jitsu understanding. But Larry Douglas seems to, more than anything, like to throw down. Lost a couple times by submission. I don't see any submission wins on his record, so maybe I spoke too soon, but I'm going to trust him to be able to just chin Julian Erosa. Bums have chinned Julian Erosa before. I like Larian Douglas' style. He's aggressive. He's got power in his hands. Larian Douglas, let's say first round KO. I feel like Julian Erosa, that's when he's most susceptible to be KO'd. If it goes out of the first round, it's kind of getting into Erosa territory. I'm going to go Larian Douglas, first round KO.
Yeah, I got Larian Douglas as well. I think I think he will knock out Julian Erosa. I think just I don't know, Julian Erosa is just he's lost so many times. Too much, too many for me to pick him. I know he has like a couple good ones too, but like I don't know. He's also in I guess in home crowd. He's got the home crowd advantage. Julian Erosa does, but I think he will get slimed out in his hometown. I'll go second round KO by Douglas.
Interesting fight here in the featherweight division between Julian Erosa and the UFC debut of Larian Douglas, hailing from LFA, if I'm not mistaken. This is an interesting fight. Both these guys have lost in their career. They are not perfect fighters. No one really ever is. Definitely have been defeated before. I will say though, I do think if this fight is on the ground, that is an edge towards Julian Erosa, whether he's on bottom, on top, 50-50 positions, and this fight being in the region it is. I think that is going to help Erosa if this fight is extended. I think he will play into the crowd. That will help his motivation, so to speak. You gotta knock out Erosa. He's never been subbed. He has 14 subs. He's 7 of his 12 losses are by knockout, 5 are by decision. So you have to basically, hit him consistently enough to win a decision or knock him out to win a decision. He beat Christian Rodriguez, who's a pretty good, decent grappler in his own right. And, not too long ago, he had a pretty decent scrap with Makazayo Costa, who's surging right now in the featherweight division. I think this fight's a bit more competitive than makes it out to be. He's weird, dude. Like Julian Erosa, there's times where it looks like his chin is like gonna fall off if you like just like a breeze passes by, but then he'll like go the distance with Malcasayo Costa, who's fucking knocking out Morgan Charrier, knocking out Dan Ige. Like this guy is knocking out guys who have never been knocked out in their career, but he goes the distance. It's weird with Erosa. Like his durability is on and off. Larian Douglas, from what it looks like, does appear to be a knockout artist in his own right. So it really feels like it's either Larian gets an early knockout or Arosa kind of, makes it a bit of an ugly, scrappy war and is able to kind of dog it out. Not gonna lie, the more often I think about it, I'm kind of tempted to pick Juicy J here as an upset. I do think he can make this an ugly fight. It's just like, is his chin like fucked? Because like, if he gets, I could definitely see him getting knocked out early. Like, he's been knocked out 7 times in his career, but 31-12, like nearing 50 pro fights, like that's insane. The amount of experience Orosa has. He's 36. Larian's 30. Larian's, I would say, like closer to his prime than Orosa is. This should be a Larian Douglas knockout win in his debut. But I don't know why, man. I'm kind of tempted to pick Juicy J. His losses like aren't terrible. I like Isaac Thompson. I'm high on him. Chepe Mariscal's not a bad one. This Dagestani guy's not a bad one. Reluctantly, I'll go Larry and Douglas by like early second round knockout, but I'm tempted to pick Juicy J. I'm not gonna lie. Kind of tempted.
Moving on to our feature fight of the card, the retirement fight of Michael Chiesa versus Nico Price. I'm gonna be honest, nobody really gives a fuck. This shouldn't be on the main card, let alone the feature fight. I guess Michael Chiesa retiring. They love him because he's a UFC analyst and he didn't sue the UFC when McGregor threw the dolly at the bus. I think that's really why. But there he is, feature fight. And I think he wins. They love giving Chiesa easy fights. They love rolling out the red carpet for him since he, didn't call the police on them and McGregor and file a lawsuit and all that. So, here he is, Nico Price. There's a nice retirement fight for you. You're going to get a promo package with Joe Rogan fucking crying. He meant everything to me. Joe Rogan's really going to be like that. Thank God he's not on the commentary. I really hope he doesn't just show up. It's like, Adesanya's here. I'm doing it. I really hope Joe Rogan is nowhere to be found. I don't think he'll be there. I really hope not. But yeah, they're gonna roll the promo package, and what a legend, a pioneer of the sport. We're gonna hear all that shit about Michael fucking Chiesa. Like, all right, bro, you were ranked 7 at lightweight. You were ranked 7th at welterweight. You lost, and all your fights after that. Congrats, you're a gatekeeper. Never gonna be in the Hall of Fame. Enjoy this promo package because this is the last of your seal. This is the last you'll see yourself on the Titantron that isn't an analyst desk. Yeah, but I do think he wins. I think Nico Price is cooked. Chiesa, despite Nico Price actually being okay in the grappling himself, Michael Chiesa is just better grappler, I think, than Nico Price. And I think at this point he's probably faster and more with it with the striking. Nico Price is slow as fuck. We picked him to beat Nikolai Varetnikov, and I feel like that was, fate of Varetnikov more than anything else. But Varetnikov had hand and speed. Oh my god, hand speed. Whereas I think Chiesa doesn't really have hand speed to that degree, but it's still going to be faster than Nico Price's fucking slow ass. Like, Nico Price needs to retire more than Chiesa does. I'm going to be honest. Chiesa's at least coming off a win. But yeah, I'm going to go Michael Chiesa. I actually think he'll win by submission. I'm going to say armbar. Second or third.
I tried my hardest to pick Nico Price to win. I really did. I really don't like picking Michael Chiesa, bro. But here we are, big 2026 picking Michael Chiesa in his last fight. Let's go, yo. Um, I just Nico Price gets taken down too much, and like I don't like that. And man, I just can't. I can't pick Nico to win this one. I can't after what I just saw. I mean, Michael Chiesa. Here's the thing with him. He don't have power. He don't have striking, any level of striking. At least Veretnikov has somewhat striking compared to Michael Chiesa's shit striking. I'm gonna go with Michael Chiesa via first round rear naked choke. I think he will sub him in either round 1 or 2, and I have a feeling he will get the back. Lately, he has been rear naked choking people, so I think he will get the back here on this one. So that will be my prediction. And rest in piss in Michael Chiesa's career. May he go fuck himself in his future endeavors. I honestly don't care.
Retirement fight of Michael Chiesa in the UFC going up against Nico Price. Yeah, they obviously want him to have a proper send off, similar to what they did with Robbie Lawler with Nico Price. This is the guy they called. This is the guy they want to give the send off. I actually met Nico Price. I think at the same time like Mike met him. He's a cool guy, decent fighter, been around the block, fought a lot of guys at a high level in their careers. When he fought like Vicente Luque, when he fought like Randy Brown, guys like that. Both these guys have pretty much kind of fought like relatively similar level of competition through and through in their career. About the same level amount of fights, 20 plus pro fights. Durability has always been like a concern for both of them. But last fight for Chiesa, I suppose like the motivation would be him, want to go off in a proper note. His brand of grappling, I guess, is like more trusting of top time, I suppose, if that's something you want to measure. And with this fight being his retirement fight in this venue, excuse me, sorry, with this fight being where it's at, I feel like his brand of grappling will get more leniency in this fight, more so than ever in his career, if he wanted to just wet blanket him, Nico Price. And I expect that to be the game plan for this one. I think Nico Price should want to keep this fight on the feet for as long as he can. I think Chiesa is going to be hell bent on takedowns and just top time submission attempts, maybe even ground and pound. He has no TKO wins in his career, Michael Chiesa. Nico Price has 6 TKO losses. I'm gonna I'm gonna reach. I think there's a chance he can get his first pro UFC TKO win in his career. I don't even think it's gonna be like a TKO. I think it's just gonna be like him hammer fisting Nico Price to like the extremity that Nico Price isn't gonna like fucking defend himself. And the ref is just gonna give him like the most pitiful like layup TKO retirement win ever. Like he's not defending himself. It doesn't look like it's hurting him, but it's enough to win the fight. So yeah, I'm gonna go with like a third round, like buzzer beater, like bullshit punch, ground and pound TKO, third round Michael Chiesa, where it's just he's been wet blanketing Nico Price the entire fight, trying to go for submission attempts, but Nico Price is competent enough to defend them, and ultimately like Chiesa's like, man, fuck it, if I got this position, I'm just gonna keep on spamming punches until the ref pries me off. And I think he gets his first ever UFC TKO win in his retirement fight. Scripted, for sure. It's gonna look very scripted looking. I'm gonna go with a third round ground and pound TKO win from Michael Chiesa in Seattle.
Moving on to our co-main event of the evening. I honestly forgot that this was a rematch. Alexa Grasso versus Macy Barber 2. First fight, Alexa Grasso. So Alexa Grasso looked okay in there. She looked like a fighter, whereas Macy Barber, I don't know what the fuck she was thinking. She was fucking shadow boxing her way to a unanimous decision loss. Fucking if you guys remember the shadow boxing Macy Barber days, where she's just shadow boxing at range, just fucking just throwing it in the air, fucking just it was some of the funniest shit. and Alexa Grasso just kind of moved in and boxed a little bit. That was enough to win. I do think Macy Barber, in all seriousness, has gotten better since then. She doesn't really throw her. I swear to God, if we get a return of the shadow boxing at range, I'm gonna lose my shit. But I don't. I think she's moved past it. She's a gritty fighter when she's at her best. She gets in the pocket, does damage. She uses Muay Thai clinch, elbows, knees. She's one of the few fighters that really does damage. So I do think that's pretty good. She kind of came back from her seizure and beat Karine Silva, which is something I was kind of worried about. I wanted to see how she looked after that, and she looked pretty good. Uh, Alexa Grasso, she's a striker. I think the grappling is going to kind of be a wash here. She might be able to grapple Grasso a little bit, but I don't think it'll be breadwinner for her in this fight. I think she's got to be aggressive. I think this has got to be a barn burner in order for AC Barber to win. I feel like a technical fight favors Grasso. I think Barber has to make it a scrap, and honestly, I think she will. I'm going to be picking Macy Barber by decision in a scrap. I think Grasso and her Mexican skull is going to not get TKO'd. Like, she's got a pretty big head and a big chin, low key. Like, she's hot still, but like, I don't see Grasso getting like fucking slumped. You know what I mean? Like, she looks like she has a good chin, and she's Mexican. They don't get knocked out. Whereas Macy Barber is also tough. She's taking a lot of shots. I don't think either of these girls are going to finish the other. But I do think this will be a scrap. And I think if it becomes a scrap, Grasso might back up a little bit. I think that's where Barber gets her in. And I think if she fights like how she fought Rebus, and there's another one in there that I'm missing. But when she's getting these finishes, that's the way she needs to fight. She needs to fight uber aggressive, like when she's got blood leaking down her face, like fucking screaming in the cage. That is the Macy Barber we need to win. And if she shows up like that, I'm gonna pick her, and I'm gonna trust that that's the one that shows up. I'm gonna say Macy Barber. She's past that Mata Ferry shit, Tony. Don't compare her to Casey O'Neill. Macy Barber. Ball knowers know. Y'all want to see some cheeks? Watch some Macy Barber fights. And the more they throw punches, the more that thing gonna move and shit. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? But yeah, Macy Barber decision. 29-20. I'll say Grasso gets around by being technical, but yeah.
Oh boy, here we go. I did a little research on this fight. Not like that though. Not like that though. But I actually watched some women's fights. I did go word for word, bar for bar. And I saw exactly what Alex was talking about because low key I was laughing mid fight. She was just going, and you can hear Macy Barber too. You can actually hear her trying to throw something at Grasso. She was going, She was looking like a fucking T-Rex out there. And I like Macy. I really do. But Grasso is not that bad, bro. I'm going to go with Alexa Grasso here, I think. I think I'm going to go with the underdog shot here. This might be bad. But I also did a little statistics here. In women's MMA fights, it is very rare to get a 1-1 situation. Normally the woman that wins the first fight will win the second fight. And I think it will be another women's statistical battle here where the women's fighter will win the rematch. Like, Macy's good, but I'm looking at who Grasso lost to. She lost to fucking Natalia Silva and Shevchenko her last two fights. Like, those aren't bad losses. Shevchenko is arguably the women's well, not arguably, she is. There is no fucking other women's champion than her and Grasso. But you know what I mean? Like, she's losing to Shevchenko, she's losing to Natalia Silva. I mean, after what we saw in the Rose fight, I know that's not a good look, but like, Rose is good. And Natalia Silva is really good. So I'm not really gonna go off those losses, and I think we're gonna see shadow boxing Barber back. I could just so see in our fight companion Alex raging, losing his fucking mind, and we're hearing. She's looking like a fucking hamster on that wheel. Like I don't know, something's telling me that we're gonna get a you must have forgot moment with Speaking of y'all must have forgot, we'll talk about that later, but you know what I mean. I'm gonna go with Alexa Grasso showing levels and winning a unanimous decision victory. I'll go 20. I think Macy will do decent in the first, but then the second and the third she will look fucking awful. I'm gonna go with a 29-28 Grasso decision. I do like Macy though. She has been fucking phenomenal at fighting. I ain't gonna lie. You know, you know what I'm saying. Alex knows what I'm talking about. All nowhere.
Great fight here in the strawweight division in a rematch. I'm tripping. Flyweight division. I'm tripping. Rematch in the flyweight division. The first time around, Alexa Grasso beat Macy Barber, but at the time, Macy Barber was 22 years old, and she was coming off of her first pro loss against Roxanne Modafferi by decision. So, funny enough, in her career, her two losses are back to back. Outside of that, like instance of her career, Macy Barber has won every other fight in her career. 15-2 record going up against former champ Alexa Grasso. You know, Alexa has seen just been there, done that. She's been on the top of the mountain. She's won the belt. She went toe to toe with Shevchenko. She had a series with her. Um, Regardless, positive or negative, it does look like it may have taken a toll on her. I will say that for Alexa. Like her style has been so much on broadcast and high level matchups. Like I feel like the tape study on her is kind of out, whereas the narrative with her is kind of her footwork, at least on the feet, isn't the best. Her ability to cut off the cage, even though she was very competitive with Shevchenko on the feet throughout the duration of the series. Um, like she was able to get a sub the first time, and then she went to a draw the second time. She did get outclassed in the third fight, but that's an all-time great in Shevchenko. As for Macy Barber, I do think from that first bout when she was 22, now 27, I feel like she has made legitimate improvements and strides in her game. My concern for her, though, is her health outside of the cage. It was really unfortunate what happened with the Aaron Blanchfield fight. That was in our award show. My nomination for like the bummer of the year. That was like a really like lose-lose situation for everybody, for both fighters in the main event, an opportunity that was missed, and for us fans, we didn't get to see that bout. That was really unfortunate. I hope all the best for Macy. I hope that she's healthy. I hope that she's all good now. And she kind of proved that in her last fight against Karine Silva. She showed me that she can go to a fight extended if things don't go her way, get a competitive decision win. And I feel like for her to be willing to engage in the guard of a Karine Silva, I'm not really concerned with Alexa Grasso's brand of jiu-jitsu. I do understand that she did submit Valentina Shevchenko, and that is an amazing feat that our boy Alex pretty much called on the head. Like when that fight happened, that's one of his best predictions. I'll always remember that. It was very amazing and very impressive what she did. But I do think it was very opportunistic in the sense that it was a perfect counter to Shevchenko throwing an ill-advised spinning kick. She jumped on the back. They mentioned it in their camp. They practiced that drill all the time. So that was just great preparation meets a great opportunity. I don't think, on at least going into the fight, that Grasso is going to be able to submit Macy Barber. I feel like all grappling edge favors Barber. Clinch, takedowns, top control. I'm not really worried about the guard game of Grasso. Maybe she could throw up some arm bars and sub attempts and shit, but I think Barber is going to be too physical, too brutal. I really like Macy Barber's style. I think her physicality is like legit in women's MMA. I think she's a legit contender, and I'm gonna go with her to win the rematch. I'm gonna go with the decision win for Macy Barber. Very competitive, but from what I'm seeing, like in round three, she's looked really good in these past couple fights, man. Like I think her cardio, her pacing has gotten better. If her health is up to date and is like standard and like everything's all good, her protocols are like checked, and she's not walking into this fight like ill, If we're getting the best Macy, I expect her to showcase like good takedowns, good clinch entries, really take away the technical boxing of this fight, make this a fucking barnyard scrap. I think Barber just dogs through it. Um, Grasso is durable. I was tempted to go with a late TKO third round with Macy Barber. I really was, but Grasso's Mexican. She's durable. She's been with the GOAT, Shevchenko. So I'm going to trust her durability. I'm going to go Macy Barber decision win in the scrap. Great fight.
Moving on to our main event of the evening. Israel Adesanya versus Joe Pyfer. Big main event for a fight night. This is a tough one. Very tough. But back when Israel Adesanya was the champion, and he was a dominant champion, it seemed like nobody could beat him. We would kind of build people in our head like, oh, who would beat Adesanya? He'd have to be big. Joe Pyfer's big. He's got to have power in his hands. Pyfer does. He's got to have wrestling. Pyfer also does. I'm going to be picking Joe Pyfer to beat Israel Adesanya, ladies and gentlemen, and I'll tell you why. I think Israel Adesanya, when he does fight people that are grapplers, they're fucking ass. Marvin Vittori, ass. Derek Brunson, ass. Only people I would say like who aren't ass grapplers are honestly more strikers than grapplers, like a Jan Blachowicz who was able to out-grapple him. And honestly, that hasn't aged that well. Glover literally like destroyed him on the ground in like a round in his next fight. Bogdan had easy work with him on the ground. Jan does have a level of grappling, but usually it's Jan getting out-grappled. Pereira was shooting takedowns on Izzy, and I know everybody just talks about, oh, Izzy out-grappled Pereira. He is grappling. Pereira got a takedown on him too. And, I honestly don't see Israel Adesanya as like, oh, he's going to be able to implement the wrestling against somebody who else is a striker. I don't think that at all. He's not like Robert Whittaker where he can mix that in, despite me thinking he's better. Joe Pyfer, he's younger. He's in his prime. He recently had like a spiritual awakening. He's fighting for God. I feel like taking that in there with you, that can't hurt. That's another motivation. Israel Adesanya, I feel like he's kind of the opposite idea in his head. He's like, okay, let me wind down my career well. Let me get the perfect, this and that. Let me have my good story. And Joe Pyfer is thinking about just winning the fight, I feel like, and bringing glory to God, more or less, is what he seems to be thinking about. Whereas Adesanya is thinking about the story, the anime, trust, typical Adesanya to some degree. But, this is a 36-year-old man. He's lost a couple fights in his career. I'm kind of past the Izzy hating away just because I've seen him lost. Like, I've already gotten my moments. I've already seen Strickland beat his ass. I've already seen DDP beat his ass. At this point, it kind of just feels sad. Adesanya is going to be the better striker. He's going to look good at range. But Pyfer, I think, is going to be able to close that range. I think Pyfer, with his grappling, he knows what to do. One time he fought Abdul Razak Al Hassan, very powerful guy. And I was thinking, all right, this will probably be a striking fight where, two powerful guys. I was wrong. Pyfer, he realized the danger that Abdul Razak Al Hassan had in his hands, and he just grappled the whole time, and he destroyed him. I think Pyfer is going to be grappling often in this fight. Uh, Sometimes I've been right about that. Sometimes I've been wrong. But I do think against a guy like Israel Adesanya, you should grapple. You're encouraged to grapple against somebody like Adesanya. I do actually feel like Adesanya has a little bit more power in his hands now than he did earlier, just because I feel like he put on some weight and he has some power because of that. But I don't think he's anywhere near as fast at the same time. I don't think the super elusive Adesanya always going to be able to get out of range is there. We saw Imavov being able to catch him several times. To be fair to Imavov, he is a very elusive, good striker in himself, and I do think he's a better striker than Joe Pyfer. But Joe Pyfer, he's got a lot of power, and I feel like that'll make Adesanya relatively tentative and relatively content to fight on the back foot and tap low kicks. And I think, that's going to, in one hand, give him rounds. That's a great strategy for Adesanya. He doesn't have to engage. But on the same end, that means Pyfer isn't going to really have the same range to throw and gas himself out. I think Pyfer's going to have more cardio leading into the third and fourth round than maybe he did against like a Gastelum. That being said, Adesanya, I just have a vision in my head of him getting slept. I don't know what it is. My pick is going to be submission, but I do think Adesanya could get slept. I have a feeling that he just could. I see it. I manifested this. Trust. But I think Pyfer is a tough fighter. He's going to be fighting another big guy who can grapple, who can strike, and he hasn't been doing so well recently. It's a 3-fight losing streak, albeit great opponents, but 36. Pyfer's on his way up. I think he's got the perfect storm to get Adesanya out of there. I really like that he's a big guy, powerful, and he can grapple. I think grappling is the X factor here against Adesanya. People forget, man, Vittori had his fucking back. And Vittori, as time gone on, shows that his grappling really isn't shit. And Pyfer's a lot more physical and a lot more dominant with it. Let's say Joe Pyfer, second round Kimura.
Interesting pick by Alex. I really wish that Israel Adesanya would go out like this. I really do. No matter what happens, I am always going to be an Izzy hater. Because to be honest with you, bro, no matter what Izzy does, he just pisses me off. I'll be like, you know what, Izzy ain't a bad fighter after all. He's still fun to watch and stuff. Nothing to hate. And then you see one video, he goes, "Trust, this is just another part of my vision. I am the avatar, this and that, and trust." Like, bro, I get annoyed. I really do. But I'm going to pick Israel Adesanya to win, bro. I really am. I just so see him going back into his instincts where he is just leg kicking at range and just using heavy counters against Joe, and I think Joe will get frustrated. The thing with Joe Pyfer is on picking him is IQ. I cannot trust his IQ. I can't trust his IQ. I cannot trust some of the things I've seen. Jack Hermanson was boxing him up, and it's not looking like a good look anymore. Like, Jack Hermanson boxing him up is not looking good. Before he cooked Abus, like, Abus was also having moments on the feet with Joe. And if they're having moments, how is a world-class kickboxer like Israel Adesanya going to look? We'll have to see. I think Izzy's going to use low leg kicks. I think he will use counters in this fight. He is very good at countering people. He's won championships off of countering people. I think it will be a unanimous decision masterclass. I think he does know that the grappling will have to be factored to beat him, and I think he will defend Joe Pyfer's takedowns and stuff. But I have a feeling Joe Pyfer's just gonna fight stupid. I'm getting that MVP Sam Patterson thought in my head, minus the whole UK shit. I just think I like that the whole like following God moment from Joe. I'm a religious man, as you could see. Like I do like the stuff that I see out of Joe Pyfer in his press conferences. It's not like the whole hothead complex that he has, like where he's going like, you fucking media man, you said something about me. Fuck you. Like he's not. We don't see any of that. Thank goodness. He has very cool, calm, and collected moments now, but I just so see him fighting dumb. I think he will strike with Izzy, and I think he will lose. I think it's going to be I'll go with a 49-46 decision by Izzy. I think he will have a y'all must have forgotten moment again. I could just I do hope Joe Pyfer wins, bro. I can so see the fucking interviews. I could so see the freaking everything. Like, I could just so see it. Like, tell me y'all can't see a TikTok edit, a cringe TikTok edit of Izzy just crying and talking about, I told y'all, this is just part of my story. This is where we're gonna have the chapter. The end is near, and I still got it. I'm not leaving. He's just gonna requote Wolf of Wall Street again. He's not leaving. But yeah, I think Izzy will win. He will have a y'all must have forgot moment, and yeah. Oh, I hope Joe Pyfer wins though. I hate Izzy more than I hate Izzy. I hate the casual fans that just tune in whenever he fights. But unfortunately, I think besides McGregor, we do need an Izzy in this day and age where UFC's kind of going cancerous. We need some stars in the mix, like an Alex fighting. Thank God he's fighting. and Ilya, like those type of names. We need them to continue to fight, and I think Izzy knows that he needs to like do something here, or the curtain's gonna fall on him. But yeah, I got Izzy snapping his losing streak. He will come back. He's gonna have his comeback win, and I think he will style on Joe Pyfer.
Main event of the evening in Seattle. It's a banger in the middleweight division. Former champion Israel Adesanya, top three middleweight of all time. I feel like you have to put him, regardless if it's one or two. I think he is either one or two middleweight of all time. The resume speaks for itself. The accolades speak for himself. Even the losses that he has speak for themselves. Joe Pyfer, surging contender in his own right. The UFC clearly wants him to be successful. A Dana White Contender Series prospect. As we all know, that infamous chant that Dana White said, "Be like Joe Pyfer." They clearly like this guy. They want him to, be successful. He's exciting. He's physical. He's imposing. He has knockout potential. He has decent grappling that looks like it's finishing conducive, where it's not just like control oriented. He's a good fighter. But this is without a doubt the biggest test of his career. 100% are jumping him up the rankings. They want him to be in this situation. Adesanya, I do want to say I want to say nearing 30 pro MMA fights. I think it's like 24-5 record. So this would be like his 30th pro fight, if I'm not mistaken, in MMA. Look at the fucking losses. Jan Blachowicz at 205. Okay. Alex Pereira, DDP, Sean Strickland, Nasruddin Imavov. That's like four champions and a top three contender. All of which I am of the mindset are better technical strikers than Joe Pyfer in their own way. I understand people think that Joe Pyfer is a better boxer or overall striker than DDP, but I completely disagree with that. I think Blachowicz, accolade proven in Muay Thai and just striking, is better than Joe Pyfer. Alex Pereira, accolade proven in kickboxing, is better than Joe Pyfer. DDP, also accolade in kickboxing, is proven better than Joe Pyfer. And who's the other one? Sean Strickland for MMA, his boxing is more effective than Joe Pyfer, even though Pyfer gets more knockouts. And Ashley Namavov, his French kickboxing style, I would argue, is technically more sound than Pyfer's. Pyfer has good hand speed, good power, physically imposing, very dangerous early. I think this fight is Pyfer early, Izzy late. I think Pyfer, having only gone 5 rounds at least one time I've seen in his career against Jack Hermanson. Jack Hermanson, who's a grappler by trade, was able to be effective on the back foot, able to avoid the big shots of Pyfer, and able to effectively win a decision. I do not mind Alex's pick over Pyfer. I think he is on to something as far as he's catching Izzy at the right time. If this was Izzy a couple years ago, Izzy is a massive favorite. We all know this. But Father Time is undefeated. He's only getting older. He's getting finished in fights now. His durability is questionable. He doesn't look to be in his prime, obviously. Pyfer, younger, more powerful, even though he's not the better overall fighter, he's catching him at the right time. I completely understand the Pyfer pick. Under the pretense that he's going to grapple, I completely understand it. But I also hear what Mike's saying. Joe Pyfer's fight IQ has been questionable in moments as well. Even though he grappled against Abdul Rak Al Hassan, you know, feels like he could kind of like lean into that grappling more in fights. And he's kind of showing that a little bit. In the Abu Smagomedov fight, he grappled more than expected. If he grapples Izzy, he has the opportunity to get a finish via ground and pound, submission, or he could even knock him out of the feet. But if he doesn't effectively grapple him, I do feel as though Adesanya is the better striker. He is more conditioned for 5 round fights, and all of his losses, I do think, are better strikers than Joe Pyfer. I think the longer this fight goes, it favors Izzy. I'm gonna go with Adesanya in this one. I think if you're picking Pyfer, you're picking an early finish. If he doesn't, I'm expecting Izzy to lose the first 2 rounds, and I'm expecting him to pick it up in 3, 4, and 5, and potentially even get a late finish. But I am gonna go decision. Pyfer has only been knocked out one time, and it was kind of a weird situation in the Dustin Solstice fight where he had like an arm injury. So I will give his chin the benefit of the doubt, and I've seen him go 5 rounds and lose before, although he wasn't getting hit by Izzy, but we'll see. I don't mind a late Izzy finish, but like I said, I feel like if you're picking Pyfer, it's got to be early. I think the longer this fight goes, Israel is going to show his experience. He's going to show that he was a former champion in the world. Like I said, all 5 of those losses, I reckon you put Joe Pyfer in those spots. I'm picking the guys that beat Israel to beat him in those spots. Um, under the pretense that he doesn't grapple like like uh like Mike said. I feel like he's gonna want to swing and bang without Asanya, but Alex is picking him under the pretense that he will make it a focal point to mix in the grappling. That really is the kind of the coin flip of this fight. If Pyfer really makes it adamant that he wants to grapple, he is capable of doing effective ground and pound or submission attempts on Izzy for sure. But I feel like if he can avoid those situations, if he can extend this fight, I think Adesanya in 3, 4, and 5 is gonna clean up the margin that he would have lost in 1 and 2. So I'm gonna go with an Israel Adesanya decision. I don't mind a late finish, but I think he'll defend the takedowns. He'll sweat an early first 2 rounds where it looks like he could have been finished. And in 3, 4, and 5, he's just going to be tagging and piecing up Joe Pyfer. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to be bold. I'm going to go with the 5th round TKO Adesanya, where he's just got an exhausted Joe Pyfer in the championship rounds. Even though he won the first 2 rounds, he don't got the gas to make it all the way to the finish line. I'm going to go with the 5th round TKO Adesanya.
And that will do it for our predictions for Pyfer versus Adesanya. For a performance of the night, fight of the night, you guys have any fights that stand out or fighters that stand out?
Adrian, yeah, no, I'm playing.
If the main goes, that could be fight of the night.
I think it could be. It could be,
If
honestly.
it goes distance, that could be. But I'm gonna go Bahamundez and Musayev being fight of the night.
I agree with Tony. I'm gonna go with that too. Performance of the night. I
Fight of the
think
night.
I think I'm gonna give Terrence McKinney his first bonus. I'm surprised he hasn't gotten a bonus yet.
That is crazy. That is crazy. He's
I
never
think
been.
he'll get his bonus here. He has to.
That is insane.
And he has the right like excuse to get one too, because not only he hasn't gotten his bonus, it's in his hometown. Like, let the man get his bonus, man.
Decision in the UFC. Never been involved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he's entertained us from the winning side and from the losing side. He's a very entertaining fighter. Might as well just give him the performance bonus. Like, I think he will get one here. Who else? Who else do I think?
I think fight of the night is going to be Barber. If she shows up, I think that'll be fight of the night.
I think fight of the night's going to be
for sure.
I think it's going to be Bahamundez, or I think it's going to be
I think Bahamundez is going to be performance of the night.
He's supposed to get a knockout. He's supposed to get a knockout.
Yeah.
If Navajo gets a KO, they will give him a performance bonus. I don't think he'll get a KO though, but if he does,
yeah. I feel like Lopez coming off the knockout to Jacoby, like he ain't gonna press forward. He's gonna try to point fight Navajo, and Navajo is gonna be willing to just I'll just be on the back foot and just get my points.
I could so see them giving Abdul Malik a performance bonus just because he's undefeated.
If he finishes, Usury, I don't mind it.
Yeah, that's probably my picks.
Getting a bonus as well, but for some reason, I feel like they don't want to give Usury 50K if he were to win. Yeah. Although I think he does. I could see Tyrell be getting 50K.
You know, I just realized.
Chase Hooper.
That's a good one. I could so see them being so fucking charitable and so kind to Michael Chiesa. Why could I just see him if he finishes him? I hope they don't do this. I really don't because they watch them be like, you know what, he's retiring, and he finished him, and it was an entertaining fashion. Michael Chiesa, here's your last bonus to go, bud. Like, I could so see them doing that off of some charitable.
He doesn't need that. He's got a desk job. And on that note, we shouldn't be talking about bonuses. Let's not give them any more ideas. But yeah. those are our picks on the card. Any other final thoughts you guys want to give on the card about Seattle?
No, probably not.
All right.
All right,
I'll
let's go to the
go.
end. All right, everybody,
Let's go.
thanks for
Sounds good.
watching. And
Appreciate y'all for watching. Go like and subscribe. Shout out to Alex, Mike, our executive producer Dime. I'm just here to be a part of the team. I'm trying to really sharpen up my picks. I wasn't really pleasant with my results last week. I want to do better. I think it was like 9-4 or something. So let's just strive for better. Let's aim the stars and let's go. So shout out wartime. Let's do it.
Go Giannis.
let's go.